Well, thank you for the kind introduction. I'm very happy to have Monica Pitrelli here with me today. And I think my hello goes to Singapore. Is that right?
Correct, yes, I'm in Singapore.
Monica, you look great. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful, thank you. It's wonderful to meet you here, Sophia.
Perfect. Now, for those of you who do not know Monica Pitrelli, Monica is the editor for CNBC's Global Traveler, the business network's travel platform to inform and inspire high-yield travelers. Now, Monica spent the last year reporting on changes in the travel scene, analyzing new safety stands and emerging travel trends. Now, Monica, we have just 9 minutes and 3 questions. So at least we will get 3 key insights from you. But I'd like to mention that there's a Q&A session afterwards. And of course, for those of you who want to read more from Monica, there is the CNBC's Global Traveler website. Monica, COVID-19 is a test like no other. Never before have the lives of so many people around the world been affected at the scale and speed. How will new lifestyle changes affect the travel industry?
As remote work is being normalized around the world, we're seeing an entirely new category of traveler emerge. We're calling these people white-collar workationers. So technically they existed before. There just weren't that many of them. The classic example would be someone who booked a cabin or tropical villa for a few months to write a book. Barack Obama famously did that. But now millions of people can work this way. So this shift in work was originally intended to be temporary, but now it's expected to outlast the pandemic because it's working. It's largely working for companies and most employees, and it's having a huge effect on travel. It's changing, not only when and where people are going, but it's changing how they spend their time when they're away. For example, in January, Global Traveler covered a trend in young workationers that were heading to warmer destinations for the entire winter season. But we're also seeing a change in people's mindsets. So conventional wisdom has long held that we were to disconnect from work when we travel, And if we couldn't, there was something wrong with you or your boss, or maybe your industry was too overbearing. But that's not the case anymore. The whole idea now is to keep workationers working while enjoying things like spa sessions and room service in a beautiful new place. Hotels are responding to these travelers by outfitting rooms with office equipment, and many are also discounting rates for people who stay a month or longer. But not every place wants travelers to come for a month. There are some that want them to come for 1 to 2 years. So places such as Bermuda, Croatia, and Mauritius, they've launched visa programs to entice these new white-collar workationers to work remotely from their shores. So we've had digital nomads in the past, of course, but nothing on this level. So this is a new hybrid category of traveler. They're neither tourists in the traditional sense, nor residents. And they'll spend their money differently than both of those groups. This is a trend that CNBC Global Traveler is watching very closely. And that's because we feel countries may court workers in the future in the same way that they court corporations today.
No, I definitely agree on this. I think this is something that I've been also living in my job because I worked from Rome a lot of time for the city of Berlin. So I can definitely agree on this trend. It depends all on the situation, of course, in the countries where we want to travel, because quarantine measures, rising COVID-19 cases at the destination, and the fear of getting ill continue to be major concerns among travelers. Is safety enough to restore travelers' confidence? And if not, what else is needed?
Travelers value safety more now than they ever have before. They want to understand hotel protocols before they book, and they want to visibly see cleaning happening while they're there. But we also know that people are searching for rural destinations and outdoor-style travel. And they're staying closer to home for the most part. So staying safe is at the heart of all of these trends. But if we dig a little deeper, the feeling that underpins them is a sense of control. So people really want to know what to expect when they travel now. Take, for example, modes of transportation. So traveling by a car, even a rental car, gives travelers control, while flying in a plane, doesn't. That is why blocking middle seats on airplanes has been particularly effective, because it tackles that unknown issue of who will sit down next to you. We're also seeing technology giving travelers control, because it's providing information that they've never had access to before. So crowd analytics, it's a particularly interesting area here. So not only does it help companies manage crowd flow, but from a traveler's perspective, we're seeing apps being developed that can show, how busy a particular museum is at a moment, or, whether crowds are forming inside businesses or, say, parks. Lastly, I would say we're also seeing some destinations provide control a little better than others. One interesting example is Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka opened in January without requiring quarantines, by allowing tourists to sightsee around the island as long as they stayed within what it called bio-bubbles. And they were designed to keep travelers separated from the local population. So on one hand, these bubbles completely strip travelers of a traditional notion of control, right? People, they're not free to travel where they want, when they want at all. But on the other hand, the many rules surrounding these bubbles give travelers a very clear understanding of what a trip to Sri Lanka right now will entail. And that's likely to be highly attractive for the time being. The Maldives' success last year has been attributed to the same reason. The geography of the atolls, with one hotel per island, with separate villas rather than a big block-style hotel, all of these things made it easy for people to envision what a trip there would be like. And that clarity provides the control, which is what travelers need to feel confident enough to venture out again.
I understand. So there's still a lot to do for the industry. Now, besides all these challenges, we're always on the hunt for that good news. Is there a silver lining on the pandemic? And if so, what is it?
Yes, I believe that there are many, actually. But speaking purely in the realm of travel, the pandemic, it allowed us to do something that really the world has never done before, and that is it put everything on pause. It gave travelers time to reflect. It gave them time to think about their past trips and what they want to prioritize in the future. But it's not just people, actually. Destinations have also had time to reflect, and they've also had time to act. So before the pandemic, one of the biggest problems in the industry was over-tourism. So we saw destinations like Venice, Barcelona, and Boracay, even the peak of Mount Everest. Do you remember those photographs of the hikers? These places went from tourist feast to famine. And neither of those situations really work for the place or the people who go there. So, I was in the Vatican this summer before the pandemic started, and it was wall-to-wall people, like a nightclub, but of course it was just 9 in the morning. And no matter how fascinating a place is, it's hard to enjoy it when you can barely move around. So, so far we've seen very few places that are willing to close long enough to, try to address these problems. Boracay in the Philippines and a few of the Thai islands are exceptions to the rule. But now, everywhere has had that chance. And so we know that New Zealand is examining these issues. Iceland has spent millions of dollars on tourist infrastructure to protect the environment. And the Philippines recently indicated it's considering moving away from a mass tourism model. Officials there told CNBC that the changes that they've seen to the beaches and also to the marine life that's returning in the past year have been remarkable. And this is the locals saying this. So they're striving to find a better balance between tourism and the environment as well. So, is there a silver lining? I would say it felt somewhat before like tourism was like on a runaway train, with the number of travelers and profits and problems, frankly, increasing by the year. People were making a lot of money, and so there was little incentive to rock the boat in that situation. But as difficult as this past year has been, the pandemic may be the break that will allow travelers to forge a more meaningful, sustainable way forward.
Thank you so much, Monica. I like this one of the better balance. I really like this is a nice closure. Unfortunately, we're short on time here. So all I can say is thank you so much, Monica. This was so interesting. Thank you to the audience. And let's enjoy the rest of the ITB Now convention. Thank you and goodbye to Singapore.